privileged over the last 15 years.
在过去的15年来，我真是有着上帝给我的荣幸。
To research some of the history of the Bible.
能够研究圣经部分的历史。
Now, many people question: Is the Bible true?
很多人就问到说，圣经所记载都是真的吗？
So we've been researching, myself and others.
所以我就跟我的朋友伙伴一起来研究
some of the big stories from the Bible.
特别是圣经有一些很特别的故事。
And asking: Is there evidence for these stories?
是不是能够找到足够的证据证明圣经故事是真的
？Stories like the Red Sea crossing.
就你像他们渡过红海
and Mount Sinai.
这个西乃山
and Sodom and Gomorrah.
俄摩拉跟索多玛
Noah's Ark.
这个挪亚方舟
and the story of Jesus' death and resurrection.
耶稣的坟墓和他的复活。
And I've been blessed to share at Pastor Elijah's church some of these topics.
所以我们在台北教堂呢有这样的一个分享这些议题。
Now we don't have much time this morning.
今天早上我们没有太多时间。
But we'll give you a quick overview this morning of one of these stories, the Red Sea crossing.
那就给大家一个过红海一个比较精简的一个部分。
When you read the Bible story,
如果你读圣经的故事
it's an amazing story.
真是让人讶异。
Where the water was backed up, there were walls of water that the Hebrews walked through.
这个海呢就分开了，那希伯来人就从中间越过。
And the Bible says the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left hand.
圣经这样形容是他们就海呢就变成两道墙，他们从中间走过。
And one artist has drawn it looking like this.
其中呢这个画家就把它这样画。
And then after the Hebrews got right through the Red Sea,
当希伯来人呢就穿过了这个红海
the Egyptian army tried to follow them and was drowned in the water.
埃及的士兵呢就想要追赶，就也跟着下这个红海。
Now, do you believe this is a true story?
你相信这个故事是真的吗？
We've been researching where this would have happened.
那我们在 researching happen。OK， 我们到天国以后还要再研究这个。
And there are two ideas put forward.
有两个讲法。
The most popular view today
大部分的人都这样认为
is this Exodus route here.
他们离开埃及的时候，他们是走这一条路线。
And the traditional Mount Sinai is here.
过去都认为西乃山是在那个地方。
But there is no evidence here that the Hebrews ever camped there.
但是没有足够的证据来证明希伯来人真的是来到过这里。
And nothing has ever been found in here.
在那个穿越红海的那个假设里头，也没有证据在那里。
But recently, some very good evidence has come from here.
然而，有着充足的证据呢，他们是过红海是在那一个地方。
And there's some wonderful evidence being found here.
并且有非常奇妙的证据证明。
Now we could spend all morning looking at the clues in the Bible.
那我们看到圣经有许多的提示。
And if you study the Bible carefully,
那如果我们小心的去阅读
this is the most obvious Exodus route as the Bible describes.
按照圣经的描述那个上面那一条路线才应该是他们越过红海的地方。
And there's much we could share this morning, but we don't have all the time we need.
对，我们虽然有很多的资讯，但是我们没有办法全部分享。
But let me show you this morning some pictures of what is being found in the water and around this mountain here.
那我们就下到这个海里面呢，就照了一些照片来给大家来看看。
First of all, let's have a quick look at the remains of the Egyptian army that's been found here.
那么我们要来看的就是这些埃及士兵他们下去的时候被淹没的一些残骸，就在那个海里。
Now we have to ask a question: what would we expect to find?
那我们在海里面会找到什么东西呢
We need to be reasonable because it's been 3,500 years since the Exodus.
我们先需要来想象哈，那是3500年前所发生的事情。
So we are not going to find a museum on the bottom of the Red Sea.
所以在这个红海的底下，我们不可能有一个好好的博物馆在那边呈现给我们参考。
Let's consider for a moment what the Egyptian chariots look like.
那我们先来看看，实际上那个埃及的战车是长得什么样子。
When Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered in 1922,
那我们在1922年的时候就有发现这个金字塔里面有这样子的一个。
they discovered Egyptian chariots from the time of the Exodus.
在出埃及的那一段时间，他们的战车的轮子是这个样子。
These were dismantled inside Tutankhamun's tomb.
这金属的车轮这是都在他们的金字塔坟墓里头。
And now they have been reassembled.
他们的一个在博物馆里面所放的。
And you can see them in the Cairo Museum.
在开罗的博物馆可以看得到。
And here's one here.
就是他们的战车当时代的一个形状。
Very simple construction.
很简单的一个结构。
For example, the axle is made of wood.
它的轴心呢是用木头做的。
And you can see the wheel here.
轮胎。
And the bearing is made of brass or bronze.
这个轴棍就是由这个铜所做的。
Now we need to think, if this was put in the seawater and left for 3,500 years, what do you think would be left behind?
假如它被沉埋在海里面3500年，那它的情况会变成什么样子？
Not very much left.
很多东西就不像从前一样。
But in the Red Sea, a lot of coral grows.
在红海里头呢，有许多的珊瑚礁。
And we've been investigating the coral at this location in the Red Sea.
那你会看见，在这个他们的河床上有很多珊瑚。
And we've been using metal detectors, underwater metal
我们
detectors.
就用金属探测器来寻找。
And this is some of the equipment we've been using.
这是我们用的器具。
And we find in the coral traces of metal in much of the coral down there.
那我们就在这个珊瑚礁的下面就侦测了许多有关于金属的反应。
And this is unusual for coral in that whole area. In fact, around the world, it's unusual to find metal inside coral.
事实上，在珊瑚的里头是很不应该有这种金属的反应的。
Now, much of the seabed at this location is made of sand.
而大部分这个河床呢是沙子。
And coral does not grow on sand.
珊瑚是不会生长在沙的上面。
It needs an object to grow on.
它必须生长在一个实体的食物上面。
But in this area with lots of sand, we find unusual coral shapes growing here.
就在那个沙的河床当中呢，我们就看到一个不常有的这种珊瑚的成长。
And there's metal inside much of this coral.
那这个被侦测里面也有金属的反应在这个珊瑚里头。
And some of the shapes indicate what could be chariot parts.
那个形状，那个珊瑚长的形状刚好就是像一个轮的一个形状。
For example, you can see the remains of a wheel here and the spokes of the wheel.
在那边也有珊瑚是长得像轮子的形状。
But we have better shapes. Here we are.
这个是更近的一个。
The Bible says God took off their chariot wheels.
圣经形容说，上帝呢就破坏了他们的轮子。
And here again we have a sandy seabed where coral does not grow.
这旁边就是沙，不会有长珊瑚。
But here the coral has found something to grow on.
这忽然间有一个珊瑚长出来，长在一个实体物上。
Here's another photograph of the same shape.
那这是一个像另外一个照片。
And this has metal inside it.
这里面被侦测出是金属的反应。
If we look at our chariot picture again,
如果我们回到看它的车轮
Imagine the wheels and axle coming off the chariot.
你知道，就是承担那个车子上层下面有一个轮轴，
And then it sinks down to the seabed.
那就是沉在这个海床上。
So one wheel is on the ground,
就是一个轮子是在朝下，
which is now being buried by the sediment.
被这些沙石给遮盖。
And the other wheel was, here's the axle and the wheel here.
那这个车轮在中间，然后上面就另外一个轮子。
And the coral has grown on this.
珊瑚就长在这上面。
Now this one was found on the opposite shoreline.
那就在这个他们渡过红海的那个对岸那边。
This is in Saudi Arabia.
这里是属于阿拉伯的范围。
Again, we have a sandy seabed.
这都是海沙的河床。
Where coral does not grow.
是不会有长珊瑚的。
But here the coral has found an object to grow on.
那这里就有一个珊瑚呢，长在一个实体上。
And next to it we find a wheel.
我们看见这里有这个轮子。
The same size as the wheels of the chariots in the Cairo Museum.
它的尺寸就正如那个开罗博物馆里面那个战车的轮子。
And you can see the remains of maybe the axle or the hub here.
你可以看见这个轮轴就它的一个轴盖就在那里。
Also, we have been finding human bones.
那我们也找到了这个人的骨头。
This here is a human femur bone.
这个就是一个男人的一个这个股就是大腿骨。
And it has been preserved by the coral.
那么就被这个珊瑚给掩盖过。
Coral is made of calcium.
这个珊瑚呢也是钙质的一种结构。
And bone is composed largely of calcium.
那我们的骨头也是钙质的结构。
And so the coral has eaten into the bone and replaced the bone material with itself.
那珊瑚呢就侵入了这个骨头的结构来取代它，所以就石化了。
It's like it's being fossilized with coral.
就变成被珊瑚给形成一个骨头的礁岩。
The term is coralized. I don't know if you know that word.
就是被珊瑚化的化石的骨头。
And this has been analyzed by the Department of Osteology at Stockholm University.
这个分析的单位就是这个 Scotland 的一个大学的骨学的部门。
And they can tell that this bone here,
他们就可以解释这个骨头。
It was a human, a male, and a right-hand side femur.
男性这个的右股骨。
And they could tell the height of the person was about 165 to 170 centimeters tall.
可以估计165到170公分的男人。
Left Egypt. And here it was, with the Egyptian army caught up with them. To get a real sense of the height of the water in the Red Sea, we've come to the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. You can see here, this is the observation deck at 400 metres plus. The tower is 828 metres high. Where we're standing is just over halfway the height the water of the Red Sea would have been.